Hello and welcome to the You're an Asset podcast. I'm your host, Casey the Dollar. And on this podcast, we find out who is an asset in the financial industry and who is just an ass. It is. The BMIs are stupid. Oh my goodness. On today's episode, I have some very sad news, but also some very good news at the same time because two of my favorite people are joining me for the very last episode of season 2. Yes, you heard me correctly. This is going to be the last season. No, not the last season. The last episode of season 2. And we'll be back in a few months. We're taking a break. But if you don't know who my two favorite people are already in this industry, Mical, Marshall, and Ryan Stockbridge. Hello, my friends. How's it going?
Hi.
So happy to have you. So sad that it's our last episode for a bit, but we did a lot on this season. And we're going to kind of go through it, go over it, and chat about all the guests that we had. But before we get started, Mical, Ryan, how's it going, you guys? What's up? Thanks for joining me.
Yeah.
Happy to be here.
I know. It's funny when Ryan says that because for those of you that don't know, he's always here. He's just
Ryan's
not always
always
on video.
It's true.
Kind of behind the scenes. So I'm happy
Ryan's
to be
always
here, though.
We're happy to have you, Mical. Thanks for joining me and Ryan.
Yes, thank you.
I mean, I guess we'll just like jump into it. I mean, what overall thoughts of season 2?
This season was so packed with interviews, so packed full of product knowledge from a bunch of people in the industry, both good and not as good. But I feel like the value of this season was just tenfold of the first one, just bringing perspective of all the different people out there doing business.
For sure.
It was very. There was a lot of men, which isn't wrong or isn't bad. Like there was a lot of men, so it was nice, when you had the occasional woman pop in there. Yeah, I mean, it was a good season. There was a lot of good stuff. I think if people paid attention and were listening the entire time, they learned a lot. I think one of the biggest things that everyone learned is they probably should read The Power of Zero by David McKnight, because wasn't that like everyone was like, you're like, what do you read? Power of Zero. And it was like consistent. Every single person, like, what do you read? Power of Zero. So if you haven't read The Power of Zero, it's been endorsed by almost every person on this show at this point. Right. It's a good one.
It's very true. And yeah, there was a lot of men. Other than you, Mical, there was only one other woman.
How dare you assume my gender?
Okay, Ryan.
We could table that.
I try to be very politically correct around here too, and making me look bad.
That's right.
Because we also on the podcast did some politics and some world news.
Yeah.
Which was different, but something that I definitely felt was necessary that we use our platform for. And it was really cool to break up the insurance talk and have somebody out there doing something different that's helping people in a different way. And to kind of bring these two worlds together in the midst of everything that's going on in the world, which is so awful.
Yeah, and I think people forget that what's happening in the world affects what's happening here. It affects our finances. It affects the economy. So like it's already tied whether you realize it or not. And so it's raising awareness and bringing attention to those kind of things is just as important as talking about the financial institution because it's all tied together.
Yeah, no matter
100%.
What side you're on, it's important to talk about not only just the humanitarian side, but just the fact that something is happening while we live in safety and an abundance of everything.
Yeah.
Which it's funny you say we live in abundance. Because a lot of people online lately seem to not feel like we live in an abundant world. Yeah. I'll just say that. A lot of people thinking that there's not enough to go around. Mm-hmm. And I know that times are tough. The cost of living is extreme these days. But do we live in an abundant world?
As above, so below.
We still have that mindset?
Yeah, because it depends on it's all through which lens you see the world. If you feel like you never have enough and you're just scraping by, I mean, you'll probably keep viewing things that way until you decide to change the way you're perceiving the world around you and change the value that you bring to the world around you. I mean, but it blows my mind, people who are like, I'm fucking poor. And that's it.
Like the video that Casey posted not too long ago, and that's literally like every single comment is like, I don't have anything. What do you mean? And it's like, why are you advertising this? Like it, but it also kind of going into your mindset and perspective. A book that we all read a while ago, The Psychology of Money, I think is a good one for a lot of people to read right now too, because the financial education is lacking. And the mindset that people have because of that, I think, is a scarcity mindset because they don't understand how to leverage their money. They don't understand how to make their money work for them instead of them working for their money. And until that shift happens, you're going to have comment sections of people being like, I'm poor. Thank you. I don't think, what do you say? What do you say to that?
Like, people who listen to this podcast, I hope don't think that I personally am so out of touch with reality, because that is the common misconception that I was getting in the comment section. It was just like, this person is so out of touch with reality. This person has no idea how the average working class person feels. And that is so not me. That's what we're doing here, is trying to help the average American understand finances and take advantage of insurance. Holy shit, what are we doing wrong, or what's going on with society right now?
We talk to people multiple times a week who have an abundance of money. And we talk to people and they have just a little bit of consistent cash to put towards the product. So we have this broad perspective, this scope of people with different types of finances. So we can say, oh, if you have an extra $1,000 a month, you can do this with it, as opposed to being like, well, the entire country is poor and everyone's having a hard time, which that's not to say it's the majority of people aren't having a hard time. But I mean, we talk to people on a consistent basis who have an abundance of cash flow.
Yeah, there's always going to be the two sides of the pendulum, right? There's people living below the poverty line, and there's people that are living way above it, of course. Then there's insurance agents just making everything fucking worse in the financial industry for people.
Yep.
And so we're trying to combat that along with the lack of financial education, which is part of why we put on this show, to kind of weed through the bullshit that's out there. And there was some good people and there was some bad people and there was some people that are just okay, right? Like just, they're good people. They're whatever.
I know. I feel like we need like a middle, like you're an asset, you're an ass, you're a...
so going back to the podcast, like, and all the guests we had, number one right off the bat was Dustin Wiley from Spectrum Financial, Viking Financial Group. Mical, what do you think about Dustin?
He got called an asset because the product knowledge is definitely there. Like, he knows what he's doing. What I don't particularly appreciate about him
Let's do it.
are his opinions.
Let's do it. Tell us.
Not that it's a bad thing, right? We all have our opinions. We all have our strategies. He just tends to have very strict opinions about products that could be beneficial to people, but because it has like one little thing that he doesn't like, he's like, you can't use it. Don't do it. But again, the product knowledge is there. It's not my favorite. It's not my favorite approach.
And only because I feel like we might as well just talk about what we're talking about here. It's the idea that with an annuity, with an FIA, there are bonus products, and there's also this idea of annuitization, and telling people that you should not annuitize your annuity when they should more so get the option of, do you want to annuitize? Here are the pros and cons. Do you not want to annuitize? Here are the pros and cons. Should be the approach, not, I don't like annuitization. I'm not going to recommend that anyone does that. We don't think that that's the best approach when you're talking to the masses. You should be giving people the option to let them decide what's the best.
Yeah, to me, it's like, if you're taking away the choices from people, it means you don't trust the people to make their own choices.
There is some sense that we are supposed to be the professional. We should be giving strategies, but when your recommendation is to the masses, again, like to everyone, this is wrong, this is not okay, now we have an issue, because there's gonna be somebody that it's right for.
Exactly.
Right? Exactly. Ryan, what do you think about Dustin Wiley?
He's a wealth of information, man. I mean, he's got a whole team of, I think he said he has like over 20 employees. You know, he's got lots of advisors with him. No matter who you're working with, you're going to get a certain approach that comes from who they are and how they learn things, you know. But overall, I think he's a cool guy with lots to tell you. And I think people are generally in good hands by speaking with him and his team.
100%. I don't think that we disagree about that. People are definitely in good hands. He is teaching people to do max funded IULs. Of course, like what's going to come is the fact that we also had Money Mythbuster on the show. That was just our latest episode. And Money Mythbuster is a guy that is talking about bonus annuities and talking about annuitization, and Wiley doesn't like that. And so these two have some tension between them, and I called them both an asset. I think Matt was also a very, knowledgeable guy who's doing the right thing, and I didn't see a problem with what Matt was doing. I honestly, I didn't hear Matt say you have to annuitize your FIA. I didn't hear Matt say you have to use a bonus product. I just heard him pointing out the good things about those options and strategies, and that he is giving people the option when it comes to, actually doing business. But maybe the way that Matt is putting things on social media is bothering Wiley because they're doing the opposite, right? I mean, Ryan, what did you think about Matt?
Nothing that he said was particularly wrong to me or off-putting. He was straightforward about the bonuses. He was like, yeah, of course, if they're going to give you a 35% bonus up front, it's got to come from somewhere. And I think the big discernment is just whether or not he's being forthcoming with his clients and telling that to them. The same goes for every product. My thing with the annuitization is like, well, shit, that's the gamble you're taking. If you want to sign up for a lifetime income, there's got to be a flip side to that. Okay. If you die 2 years after taking a retirement income and the life insurance company gets to eat that money, that's the gamble. It could be that you live so long that now the life insurance company is coming out of pocket to continue paying a retirement income. And that's what you have to weigh. Why put your money somewhere where it's just where you're not going to touch it forever, put it into a different product then, because your family's still going to have to take it out, still have to pay the taxes on it,
100%. Some people might be, educated enough on the annuitization, but annuitization of an annuity means, like what Ryan said, you're going to take a guaranteed lifetime income from your product, like from your policy. And if you do that and then you die, nothing goes to your beneficiary, regardless of how much money was still left in the overall policy. But on the flip side, again, that money could last you until you're 100 years old, and there could have been no money left, but the annuity company has to continue to pay you, right? Yeah. So it's a risk. And that's why I originally said you have to give people options, and you cannot say that one or the other way is better for everyone. That's not true. That's not how it works. And so if either of them are only pushing one strategy, they're both in the wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the options and the choices. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we just read about this, the idea where you use your annuity to prevent yourself from running out of money in retirement. If you want something to pass on to your family, use a life insurance policy. This way you have a policy for if you die too early and a policy to make sure you don't outlive your money, and they go together.
Because Mical, what's a great reason why you should not care about having your beneficiary inherit an annuity?
So if you have an annuity and they inherit said annuity, your beneficiary has to take all the money out within 10 years, and they're taxed on
and pay
that.
Uncle Sam all of the taxes,
all of it. So it's like, okay, cool. Your family could be in that position, or you get money for the rest of your life, no matter how long you live, even if you run out of funds in your annuity. And to me, and this is where, because every person's different, right? For me, I would rather annuitize and guarantee a lifetime income than, and my kids not get, anything
screwed
if I die early.
With the taxes.
Screwed over with the taxes, or them not get anything. It's like, I have life insurance, right? I have policies. They're going to get something, but it makes sure that even if I'm 80, even if I'm 90, I'm still going to get something every single month. And that, the risk to me is outliving your funds, not my family getting screwed over on taxes. And that's a personal thing, right? Everyone's is different.
Exactly.
Well, Casey, can I ask you a question? Because I think
Of course.
Because we're talking right now about two specific people that were on the show. Both were labeled as assets. If you could like list the top 5 things that gives them the asset stamp, regardless of the things that we don't particularly agree with, like what would you say those things are?
There's a certain confidence that people know what they're talking about, right? That they understand the industry, that they're not kind of wishy-washy on like how the industry works, right? How policies are designed, how they should be sold. There's a certain level of confidence just in the way that they're talking. That would be one, that they both seem like, okay, there's a certain level of like they're not scared, right, to talk to me. Okay. Second, you ask, a question about taxes, the tax codes, and they can spit it out immediately. That is not something that all insurance agents can do. And then there are certain ways of describing how an IUL should be set up, right? There's saying things like it should be 7702. It should be max funded. You should be paying up to the 7 pay. That kind of language tells me they know what they're talking about, right? When someone is talking about how they use their team and their resources to make sure that their clients have annual reviews and they're like looking over the performance of the policy, making sure that that annual review is important. They're not shying away from having an annual review with the client. That's a big deal too, because other people give you the impression of like, oh, like it's a one and done. I did the policy, I'm out. No, people that are going to follow up, they know I did a good job and I'm not scared to go and face that client again. And then they can tell me about a shitty policy that they've seen that they've got to help someone fix or recover. And they were genuinely upset about it, right? They're genuinely like, it's really frustrating to get a policy review and you see multiple zeros. You see that there's so much extra funding room in the policy. It's just, we got to get them into something better. We got to make their money work harder for them. So it's those kind of core values about the industry and the product knowledge, and overall the way it sounds like they're talking to their client. Right? It sounds like they're talking to their clients about max funded. They're talking about the tax codes and they're talking about, I will see you again. I will not disappear. Right. And I'm going to keep up with this policy. You're important to me. And it's important to me that other people are not being taken advantage of. Now, of course, someone could lie about that. But when you can give me there are multiple zeros, there's this much room in the policy, and I would never do that. And it's so frustrating. That tells me that someone overall, they're treating people correctly. They have a conscience. What do you think? Did I miss anything about?
No, that's, you basically said what I expected you to say. There's things that even we don't agree with in regards to how they operate and how they function. It's like, no, but at the end of the day, we know that people are still going to be taken care of, and we think that's important.
Because I say I still don't like the 6,000 agents that are underneath Matt, but it is what it is, and that's going to happen regardless, because not everybody is equipped to be responsible on their own, and they need that mentorship. They need that company feel, that agency that keeps them motivated to keep going. Like the three of us, like, I don't know, it's because we're friends and we hang out and we whatever. I don't know what it is. Like the three of us are just chilling over here and the rest are like, oh no, there's 50 of us. I'm like, why? But okay.
We just don't do it that way. We keep it small, we keep it personal, we keep it tight over here. But everyone's going to have their approach, right, to the way they do business. As long as the core of it and the design of the policy is beneficial for the client, that's the biggest, most important thing. I mean, I think Matt said on the last episode that he typically goes 100% in his indexes on one, lets it run for a year, and then comes back to the client like, hey, this is what it did. Do we want to make changes now? Is that necessarily wrong? Yeah. It's not wrong, We just have an approach. He has an approach. And, but I think at the end of the day, the client still is being looked after.
I mean, I straight up told him, like, don't you think that's a little bit like irresponsible, considering you're supposed to be the professional who gives a recommendation? And just so you know, this is what I do. I split them up. I diversify them into 4 different places. One of them being the fixed account, right? So that worst case scenario, the client is going to earn interest no matter what. And he was like, no, yeah, that's a really good idea. It might just be something that no one else was doing. It was working so far and he didn't see a problem with it and he needed a new perspective, right?
Yeah.
Like Ryan was saying, like, is it technically wrong? No, it's not. But is it?
every person, every agent has their own strategy.
We can't control people.
And we can't control that. We have ours, they have theirs. And so I don't necessarily think it's wrong, because we don't talk a lot about this, because you can change your indexes and you can do old money and new money, which basically means you can put a bunch of money into an index and then leave it there, let it just sit there, and then start putting new money into a different index. So everything you put into that index just stays there, or you can move all of it.
Yeah, you can be very particular and calculated and strategic with your indexes. The idea is that to put everything in one index and just leave it alone feels irresponsible.
It increases the chance for you as the client to earn a zero by 25%.
Yeah.
And that's a lot.
And you have a big chance of earning nothing. And there's a 100% chance you could earn something
right
by diversifying the money. So it doesn't feel right. But you know what? That wasn't even a question that I asked Wiley on the first episode, because I hadn't really got my bearings as far as what questions should we be asking people.
Right.
And I know Wiley's listened to the podcast, so who knows? And I would hope that any agents listening to the podcast have heard me talk about the fixed account and heard us talk about our indexing strategy enough that they realize how important it is. How much extra time do you think that it takes from our clients when we try to delve deep into the indexes? Honestly, because I would say that it does.
A typical Zoom where I'm going through an illustration, right, is about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on how chatty and how many questions, right? And I would say there's a solid 10 minutes of that's indexing alone.
Sometimes people want to do more.
Yeah. And it's because, we're talking, we're not just saying, all right, here's your indexes, blah, blah, blah. We're saying, okay, these are the index options I would recommend using. What I'm showing you is nothing more than a recommendation. If you don't like this recommendation, here's the other ones I would maybe look at. I wouldn't necessarily use these because of X, Y, Z. Does this make sense? Are you understanding how this is working? Here's the historical chart. You can see what the index have done for the last 20 years. Here's the overall annual averages of each individual index. Here's, the bonus structure, the fee structure. It's indexed universal life. It's a third of the title.
Yeah.
It's so important. It's not just something to just half-ass or just breeze by.
100%. Sometimes I feel like we go so deep into each part of the policy that we make things hard for ourselves. Because we're trying to be so in depth that we give the client so much information that they're like, whoa, shit, man, I got to really think about what I want to do with the indexes and what's the best option. And it's it is that important. And I can't imagine not going over it. But that's where guidance comes in, which is where I say it's irresponsible to just be we'll just put it all in one index and leave it. And if you don't say any, imagine the client happens to have a year where it returns 8%. And they're like, wow, okay, leave it. And then they don't have an annual review for 3 more years.
Yeah.
Because they're like, it was fine. Now it's not fine. What do you mean? Oh, it only returned 3% the last couple of years in a row and then a 0? Well, shit.
When you put all of your money into one index, you have a 75% chance for all of your money to earn interest. But this also means you have a 25% chance for all of your money to earn a 0 in any given year. By diversifying and utilizing at least 3 different indexes, you now have only a 5% chance for all of your money to earn a 0. And then, of course, we at Power 3 Financial go a step even further, and we utilize that fixed account to make sure that no matter what the market does, you never have a 0% year, because no matter what the market's doing, you have a portion of your funds earning that interest every single year. And if the goal is cash accumulation, don't you want your clients to earn as much interest as they can, regardless of what the market's doing?
If you're using a life insurance policy to protect your money and hopefully earn compound interest, don't you want to use consistent guaranteed indexes? We're not talking about mutual funds. We're not talking about crypto. We're talking about life insurance.
Yeah.
There's a point of your client is coming to you because they're like, I heard this is safe. I heard this is reliable. I heard it was a good place to keep my money and to use it as a savings account. And yeah, it is 100%, but let's risk it in this index and put 100% of your money there. And maybe it'll perform, maybe it won't. Why don't we do it in a guaranteed interest rate? Just a little bit of it. Just make it more safe. I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
And it is what it is. As the policy is set up correctly, there is time to change it. It's just not what we would do. But it's not a bad thing, like you said. Like, is it inherently, like, is he trying to do something wrong? No.
Everyone is maneuvering based on the information that they have. You know, if Matt, from his perspective, has seen that a particular index, 100% of it has performed more than it hasn't, there's nothing to him that goes, well, I need to change this, you know? But like you said, it's a matter of safety and reliability, which is why we do the things that we do.
Not everybody reaches back out to us for an annual review, even though we were trying to offer it. They're just like, nah, I'm good.
That's true.
Right? It feels like a safer bet to just diversify from the beginning.
Right. And not to mention, why would you want to set yourself up to have to reach out to a client and be like, hey, the Bloomberg's not returning this year. We got to fix your indexes. You know, they're going to be like, well, why the hell did you put me in an index that's doing that? You know?
Exactly.
So moving on.
Tax-free Mike. Tax-free Mike.
Nice guy.
Tax-free Mike. He was called an asset. Nice guy. Got anything to say about tax-free Mike?
Well, I mean, isn't the word on the street that he's just having a hard time showing people fee breakdowns?
Shit, Ryan. That is the word on the street, tax-free Mike. You know, you put yourself out there and people do watch this podcast. They do listen to it. So a client came back that worked with me, then decided to come and talk to tax-free Mike. And the client had already gotten the cost of insurance breakdown from me. And when he went to tax-free Mike said, there's no more pages. There's nothing else that I can give you. There's no cost of insurance breakdown. And the client's like, I have it. I don't know why you're lying to me. And the client didn't end up actually being straightforward with him. He was just like, okay. So Casey, guess what your buddy did? And I was like, oh, fuck me. Mike, what are you doing? What are you doing, Mike? Because the thing is, Mike's not doing anything wrong. I saw the illustrations. They were beautiful. They were perfect. He even diversified the indexes. Like he was doing a great job. So that's why it doesn't make sense. Mike, are you scared of the cost of insurance? Because we never have a problem. Mical, what? I know you want to say something about
I mean, again, and again, this is where, this is why I asked Casey, what do you view as an asset? Because the policy was still set up right. You know, the client would still have been taken care of. Like those things remain true. This is where the differing of opinions and strategies really come into play. And
we're back to sales tactics.
Right.
It's sales tactics.
Right. And for us, we want full disclosure. We want to give you everything. We're really bad salesmen, if you want to put it that way, because we're like, you want to see the not so pretty thing? Okay, here's like when the fees get really, you know, here, we're like, here's all of it. Like, here's the good, the bad, the ugly, like all
literally though.
But that's how we operate.
Here, big client. Here's when the cost of insurance is $50,000. Isn't that what you wanted to see?
And I think a lot of this too has to do with the fact that we believe in this product so much when it's set up properly, right?
Yeah.
Like the value is there. There's no reason to hide that information, because if they don't see the value, even when you're showing them all of those things,
they were never going to see.
They
were never
going to see it anyways.
Ryan, is there a crying baby, and are you crunching things over there?
I'm stress crunching, and yes, yeah, I'm fidgeting with a plastic bag, which probably sounds great on the mic. And there is a baby crying, so yes.
Yes. So
the producer of the show is fucking blowing it.
Are you okay, Ryan?
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Dude, are you okay?
I'm gonna get you one of those the new fidget thing that came out.
Is it a sandwich? Because I could use one.
Like a sandwich to eat?
Yeah, a fidget sandwich.
Oh man. Okay, so tax-free Mike, don't be scared of the cost of insurance. It's okay. Mical can teach you if you want.
That's the best part. I don't know why people don't show it. It's not that. Well, and I think too, because there is the misconception that these policies or the fees are astronomical. I think you do a disservice by not showing people how the fees operate. If you talk to someone from Primerica, they're going to say the fees of an IUL are astronomical. Like that's in their script that they're supposed to say about IULs, right?
Yeah.
And so to be able to say, well, actually, I saw my fees and they weren't that bad, and they explained how they work, and they showed when they stopped, when this fee dropped off. And I think you do a disservice to yourself by not going over that because of that misconception specifically. But again, you don't have to.
You don't have to, but if a client asks you and you say, no, there's nothing else, That's when it's really bad.
From
like
the same
now,
carrier.
From the same. That's yeah. I left that up from the exact same company. Like he was looking at them. He asked for the same numbers.
Yeah, I think people who come on the show, we're like, yeah, you're great, you're good, and then people see them and they call us like that person you talk to, and it's like, sorry guys, like people tell on you if you don't tell on yourself.
So then we move on to.
Is there anything
Ryan
to say
Rush.
about Ryan Rush? I think
The only thing that I would say is I would like to personally apologize that I did not call him out harder on the show. Honestly, you know, he's a young kid. I wanted to believe that he means well. I think he was one of the worst salesmen of all the salesmen that were on the show. I'm not sure if he's learning to be more of a salesman or learning to be a better agent going forward, honestly. And that's the scary part.
You did not stamp him as an asset. Like you said, not there. But there was also like, we had the unfortunate situation where we ended up doing a review on one of the policies that he had created for someone. And it was really, really bad. And it wasn't that long ago. It was like about 4 or 5 months ago. And so when you're saying on the podcast that it was like 2 years ago, and we're finding out later, that it's been like 4 or 5 months, actually, people see this and they are going to tell on you eventually, which is why we do recaps.
So Ryan Rush, please do better. That's about it. But then we move on to Depot.
got us.
He got us. Ryan, you tell us.
You know, you have to remember that when we're talking to somebody on the show, this is typically our first time speaking to them, first time getting to know them.
Literally.
And so I think Casey's not coming out with swords drawn already, ready to decapitate somebody, I think there's a bit of good faith that like, oh, okay, innocent until proven guilty sort of thing.
My mistake.
It's all swords next season, but
it's all swords next time, guys.
Yeah, someone's getting shanked, figuratively.
Of course.
Legal, can we say that? Okay.
I don't think so. No.
But he was saying minimum death benefit, max accumulation, like the buzzwords. And it wasn't until that we were looking over the footage and editing the podcast that we were like, wait, what do you mean $500 going in to leave a room for $20,000, $30,000 extra if they want to, and just other things about the way he runs his business. But, it took seeing the footage that was recorded before we could actually piece it together that we need to go through and sort of correct these points that we missed.
So the second we got off the podcast, when he was like, how do you get your clients to have a cash value on year one? I was like, wait, what? Wait, stop. What do you mean? Why the fuck are we not recording right now?
Something that I really appreciate, though, Casey, about that episode specifically was the fact that you were able to say, like, look, guys, I missed it the first time. And I came back in and was able to like, hey, like, I'm going to correct this. I should have been able to see it then. I didn't. I was fooled. I want to make sure that you're not either. But I'm going to go back to the first season a little bit. There were people that we talked to that we were like, they've got it. They have the lingo. They know what they're doing. They're doing it. They're saying all the right things. And then we found out later that they absolutely were not. And it's purely because someone reached out to us and said, hey, can you actually look at my policy? This person made it. And so the best thing that we can do is give you all the information so that when you're talking to someone that's not at Power 3 Financial, that you know what you're looking for so that you don't get in a position where you've paid money into something and have zeros and you're like, but they were on the show. Casey labeled them an asset. We don't actually see the illustrations at the end of the day. We can only go based off of what they tell us. And I'm so grateful that Casey was able to catch it and correct it. I think that's actually one of the most powerful things about that episode, actually.
Thanks. We're doing our best here, and like Ryan said, like, I'm not trying to, like, of course, the name of the podcast kind of implies that I'm out for blood, but I'm actually like really sweaty during those podcast episodes because I'm worried that they're going to say something wrong and I'm going to be like, wait, what the fuck did you just say? Because you want to believe that people are not doing things incorrectly. When it comes to people's money, it's just so gross. That's all there is really to say about Depot. I mean, I hope that he took that as a big learning lesson and he's going to do better.
I mean, there's other agents who are like, man, I wish you called Depot out even harder. So it's not just us looking at the footage. It's things that other people have heard, other agents who have looked at policies and have seen it's not being done right. So it's not just us, it's being verified by other people in the industry as well,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Was Corey after Depot? So Corey Latour.
He's a marketer.
He's a marketer. He's not an insurance agent.
He's not going to make your policy.
If anyone is curious about that, if you reach out to Corey, Grow with Corey, he is not anywhere near your policy. He's not going to put together your illustration. He's not going to close business with you.
And brings you to the people who do set up the policy.
And brings you to Dustin Wiley, which might as well throw out there that Dustin Wiley doesn't set up much policies anyway either. So there's a whole team of people doing it, and they're educating them, and they're putting out the content, and they, at least on the surface, looks good to me. There's no shit to throw at Dan plan with Dan, whatever the fuck his name is. He's the problem over there for sure. And Corey did right to get away from him, and Corey is in the right by moving towards Dustin.
Yeah, absolutely.
After that was
OC Justice Part 1.
There's not much to say about there. Great episode, great guy. Doing great things for the community and for humanity. And part 2 as well, right? Part 2 as well. We just got into more numbers about how there's a lot of people struggling in the world, and kind of related that back to why you should care about what's going on in the world.
Yep.
But then there was Sasan Shear. He works with Dustin Wiley as well.
He's a character, man. He's a cool guy. He seems like a pretty empathetic guy. He comes from a world of sales. I've never seen one of his policies, but from what we saw on the podcast, it seems like he's doing the right thing for people. And he's under the wing of Dustin, who I don't think would let anything fishy slide by him, especially since Sasan's handling most of Dustin's inbound at the moment. So, I'm sure he's continuing to do the right thing.
Sasan did pass the vibe check for sure. Sasan was a cool guy. I really enjoyed talking to him. And if that's who Wiley's passing his business off, they're in good hands. And I totally jumped over the Banking Bros. The Banking Bros was a fun one.
Yeah, you basically proved why the IUL is still worth acknowledging, even if you're just a whole life person. And so a whole life people are like, it has guarantees, and that's like their rock that they're standing on, and they're not budging, which is great. But to be able to have someone who specifically sells whole life, be like, okay, like I can actually see some value in the IUL now, I think that's a really big deal. I don't think people realize how big of a deal that actually is.
That's people's biggest gripe is that whole life is all about the guarantees guaranteed to grow and cash flow. But that's not to say that IUL doesn't have guarantees or can't be structured in a way that provides the best chance at success. I will say too that borrowing from the policy and using it to leverage was admittedly not what JDU specializes in. He's there to create a permanent life insurance policy to pass on death benefit to your loved ones when that day comes. So, and when you consider the fixed account of an IUL, you can even get better returns than that in some carriers than with whole life policies. So it's,
I think it's a really good point.
I felt like JD was so serious about what he's doing, why he's doing it, how he's helping people, that that made him an asset regardless, like whether you don't want to touch IUL or not, like in the whole life space, and for the reasons that you're doing it. Damn, he really cares about what he's doing, and he really believes in what he's doing. But I did really appreciate that about JD. He's so knowledgeable in what he's doing and why he's doing it and how it works, that he's a good educator for his clients. Prit Paul,
cool guy. Cool guy, sweet guy.
Yeah.
Prit Paul.
I like his smile.
Yeah. I think Prit Paul is great. He's experienced a lot of stuff in this industry.
I think that was one of the things about his episode that was so impactful, was that he's has death benefits. He's had to access living benefits. Like he's done so much on the actual reason most people get life insurance than a lot of agents have.
And it was great to get that firsthand experience, of like, hey, hello, like they had a return of premium policy. They got the cash value plus the death benefit that they originally purchased, within the death claim. So fucking old DR Dave Ramsey can bite it.
Doesn't know shit. Prit Paul's a good guy. I think Prit Paul's going to do a lot of good for his community and for his clients in the years to come with insurance. Because again, he really believes in what he's doing and what the product can offer, and he only wants to help people. And he's been around people that are really screwing people over. So the fact that he's got kind of pushed himself away from that, just he wants to be able to sleep at night. He's a very sweet, just down to earth guy, and hard to imagine him taking a turn where he would ever get greedy and just be like, fuck this, I'm gonna screw some families over.
Yeah.
And then there's MK, which is along the same lines, I feel like, as Pritball.
I feel like it's worth talking about episode 9. I mean, what do we think about Mical?
Hey now.
Real piece of work, that one.
Well, yeah, she's all right. But then we do move on to MK.
Yep, PHP.
She does work for one of the 3-letter agencies. I feel like her experience with it has been so, I don't know, valuable for not only herself, but for people around her and her background. She's not somebody that's looking at this as like just a greedy opportunity to make some money off of families. It's really about helping people. And so she sees the benefit in educating herself to be able to better educate other people.
Yeah, she also doesn't specialize in IULs. That's not really her bag either, which we found out on the episode. So only so much you could really say. Sweet person. Specializing in mostly term and guaranteed products, which is needed too. You have to understand that the insurance world is not just IULs and it's not just whole life. And it's also not just term. There's so many products out there, and every single person is unique. So it was good to have her on as a female and to find out more about just her experience overall with PHP. But I think that her and Pritball, like, those are the kinds of people that they're so young and they just want to do good. And as long as they keep doing what they're doing and stay on this path, they're bound to make a difference in a lot of people's lives. And that it's a big deal, honestly. And then there's that fill your pockets guy, Ryan. Yeah, real cool guy, really awesome. Makes great videos. Why you gotta call me out so hard and then be like, I'm beautiful? I wasn't there yet. He's got a baby screaming in the background. His video's not coming on. He's always bothering me. Like, oh, Casey, you should say this. Oh, Casey, you should say that. No, Ryan. Kidding. I don't know. I don't feel like we give Ryan enough credit. I mean, we give him a lot of credit, but it still doesn't feel like enough credit. Because without Ryan, we would not be who we are, where we are, how we are. Like P2F. It would be P2F, and it would be a struggle. It would be so much worse. Oh, P2F sounds bad. But yeah, lots of bad things came to my head. I think he'd see that on a Craigslist ad or something. Like, no, Ryan's amazing, and we need Ryan. We would not be able to do what we do without Ryan, and we're not just saying that because we need to keep him. Like, that's a legit thing. Guys are sweet. I wouldn't be able to do anything that I'm doing without either of you guys. And I wouldn't enjoy it even half as much if either of you guys had not come around and wanted to be part of this insurance journey with me. And that does wrap up all of the guests on the show, though. Yep. Yeah. That really does. It was a wild season. For all the people that listen to the show, thank you guys so much. We love you. We hope that you got a lot out of the season. We put a lot of time and energy and sweat and tears and laughter into the show to keep it going for you. And we hope that you saw value in bringing new perspectives and agents onto the show, and that it kind of opened your eyes about what the insurance industry is all about. And if you have any ideas for what we could do for the show or how we can improve it or anything at all, just send us an email at info@power3financial. We're always open to new ideas. We want to make the show as best as possible. We will be on a mission to make season 3 even better than season 2. That's always the goal. And we will miss you until then, my friends. We're working Ryan too hard. He's the reason we're taking a break. Ryan needs a break. I need a fidget sandwich. And y'all know me. I'm your host for this You're an Asset podcast. And we found out who was an asset in the financial industry, and we found out who was just an ass. We'll see you for season 3. Thanks so much for listening. All together. Bye. Bye. The You're an Asset podcast is not giving financial advice. We are not licensed financial advisors, and our licensing is strictly in insurance products. The information that we talk about is specific to the products that we work with. We cannot guarantee that other agents will have the same product features that we discuss on the show.